wild across the land are gone. The mighty wolves now live in cages. Like my people, are only a shadow of what we once were. Slowly this land has been consumed by your cities of steel and cement. But there is still one that'll never be caged. A secret the mountains and the forests still keep. They are the master of the woods, the shadow guardians, the boss of the mountains. They are called by many names, by many tribes. The elders speak of them with respect, for they are the ultimate strength of the forest. These stories have been passed down from our ancestors for generations. To have the wisdom to understand the forest like no civilized man could. My grandfather would speak of them as shadows. No one can catch a shadow or lock a shadow away. He would say it is the wise man that knows they must be left alone. This is simple knowledge that your people never learned. You cut down the forest, dam the rivers, and fence the plains like prisons. Sasquatch watches you as you cut down his home and mold the great spirit of this land. There is no room in your cities of glass and steel for them. It is easier to dismiss them only as stories, but they are real. Real as your shadows, and always watching.
When I looked into the Native American history, and I also found out that I even had ties to the Native people of this country. Either my ancestors, parts were Cherokee and Choctaw. I found out that in the state of Alabama there were several tribes: the Alabama tribe, the Hulsey tribe, the Cherokee tribe, Chickasaw tribe, the Choctaw, Coxsackie, Muskegee, or the Creek tribe, Forks Creek Indians. And what I also found out about it that was very interesting was that they all had different names for Sasquatch, and some of them I have a hard time pronouncing because I don't speak the language. But one of them that stuck out very prominent to me. Now these are just in the state of Alabama. This page right here. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Honka, which was by the Creeks, Shinpick, by the Choctaw. But the one that really stuck out to me was Lofa. And Lofa means hairy, smelly being that could speak. And that's in Chickasaw. And what I found out was that the Native people had known about them way before my ancestors from England came over on the boats. And I thought, well, I wonder if there were, any reports, possibly. What kind of information could I find? How hard is it to find out information on such things? Well, what I did find was a wealth of information. And if you'll just hit play, I'll try to keep up with it. A wealth of information. You can see on the map where there's, we're talking sites all over the United States. But then I found websites like Alabama Bigfoot Research, that had a great database. The B.F.R.O. Field Researchers Organization, their database. Pause it right there if you would, sir. On the state of Alabama, just in the B.F.R.O. database alone, there was over 72 reports. Now that's just on the B.F.R.O. database reports that have been made. And of course there's other organizations like the GCBRO, which has a wonderful database. These are all websites you can actually go to. You can put play. And I'm showing you these pictures because I'm trying to share. Bigfoot Encounters was one of my favorite resources because the lady that took that was Bobby Short. She recently passed away. And let me just tell you, it was a tremendous wealth of information. The GCBRO, that's the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Organization, which they had an awesome database that you can look for reports that are state by state. Long Flower Jerky, which has Bigfoot reports on it, and there was, I'm talking hundreds. I'd pause it right there if you would. Now, my area of research is Bankhead National Forest. There's 91,000 acres. Now, why did I choose Bankhead National Forest? Well, when I had my initial first encounter, and I saw something that I didn't understand, I couldn't comprehend, but I was going to find out the truth about it no matter what. So, what I did was I started looking for resources as far as like books. I went to the library, checked out every kind of book I could get my hands on. But there was one book in particular that stuck out more than others. And the book is written by Robert W. Morgan. And it's called The Bigfoot Field Observer's Guide or Handbook. And I read that book, and when I finished reading it, I thought, well, if this stuff is even remotely possibly real, then I should be able to take these principles and put them to work and find them. Well, it was a trail of breadcrumbs. You hit play on that. That's why I had to do it in video format. It was and there you can see that just in Bankhead National Forest with the documented reports and the sighting locations, you can see that the center point of that seemed to be the Sipsey River or also Smith Lake, all right? And pause it right there. But this was one of one of the crucial stories that I found. And when I found this story, it really, the downy booger, and that's why I decided to go with the name Booger, you know, for the book, Bama Booger, because that's what they call it, the downy booger. And the story is that there was these two cousins, and they were coming home one night from a shindig, a dance that they had been to. And in the process of coming home to the dance, which was John and Joe Downey. And this is where the Downey Booger name comes from, is the two cousins. And they were coming home from this dance, they'd been to back in the, now this story was written in the 1924, but it occurred in the late 1800s. I think around 1894. And so they were coming home from being out, at this dance, and as they were on their horses and they were talking about the events of that evening and what had happened, all of a sudden this large, hairy, black, on two legs thing jumps out, into the road. And it startles them to such an extent that they, instead of going the short route to go home, they ended up going way back around the long way. And then when they got home, they had to explain to their mom and dad why they were so late coming in. And they told the story. Well, as a few months went by, then that's when two more people in a wagon coming home from a revival. Of course, in the article, when you read it, it talks about a 3-day church event. Well, most of us Baptist preachers call that a revival, 3 days, that's about all we're going to do. But they were coming back, and this thing jumped out at the wagon and traumatized the family so much, and the children so much, that the children had to seek medical attention, and they slept with their parents. But, this went on for a period of time. Well, when I got to doing my research on the Downey Booger and where it was, I found out that is Winston County. Well, guess where Bankhead National Forest is? Winston County. Most of it, especially the Sitchy Wilderness. Winston County. All right, you can get it. Evidence, and that's something that I keep getting hit with by people, is evidence. Pause. And one of those things that people, and I've seen even some of it earlier, asked me about is these stick formations. You know, what does it mean? Who is doing it? I don't know what it means, who is doing it. All I know, Clay, is I've been finding these anomalies, and pause. You have to look at the pattern. You have to look at the design. You say, well, I don't really see what's significant about a log leaned up against the fork of a Y on a tree, dogwood. What's the significance? Blake? Well, pause. The significance is I'm finding multiple trees that are the same shape, the same design, the same, not different trees, the same pattern. In other words, they seem to like a Y shape. And it sometimes, like, and sometimes it even gets a little, a little creative, but, and you say, well, that doesn't look like much. It doesn't, it's just a log that's standing there leaning up against another tree. That's just natural fall. That can happen anywhere. Blake, and I said, yeah. I said, you're right. I need to look at this and make sure that what I'm looking at is not just natural. I mean, an X can be found just about anywhere that you go in the woods and look. I just know and continue that that's a normal anomaly. Yeah, that's, and pause. That's normal. But why does it look like the very first one I showed, where the tree goes up and it creates the Y? Is there a pattern, Blake? Is there something there that I'm not reading? Pause. I mean, what's the significance of these two trees that are growing up, and they have these other two trees that have been placed there, not grown there, and they're the size of telephone poles? Yeah, I mean, it could be possible, like natural, occurrence. Anything's possible. I don't rule out. I'm not saying anything and everything, but how come I'm finding these similar patterns, these similar designs, these similar, and they're in different places. But the common thread, Clay, is that they're in places where reports have been made, sightings have happened. Pause. This is in Waterloo, Alabama, which is a total of, that's 57 miles from my research area. This very formation, this symbol, I've found in West Branch, Ohio. I have found it in Mississippi. I have found it in Georgia. And I'm looking to see if I can find it in Oklahoma, because there is a similarity for some reason. And I looked into the Native American culture, and that does have a meaning. I'm not sure what, but it does have a meaning. Play. And I looked for other things that maybe, just didn't look quite right. I mean, two cedar trees that I could not physically pick up, like, and yet these were placed there with a purpose. Wedged in between the trees to where it skint the bark play. And I just I couldn't figure it out. What does it have a meaning? Does it have a symbol? Pause. Why would something take a tree, uproot it, and then stick it upside down in the form of an X? But notice the lime tree in the center. It has meaning. I don't know what, to be quite honest with you, Sasquatch are. I've got a lot of theories, got a lot of ideas, but that's really all they are at play. Is their ideas and theories, because I don't really know. I know that I find stuff at play. I find stuff like this that looks like an X, or I find stuff like this that just, you know, these two logs were brought there. These two were found at a preserve in northwest Muscle Shoals. These formations, and I see pictures of them here that look similar. I'm going, wait a minute. But then I find what throws me for a loop. Hit play on this. I find, and we'll let it play through there. We found this, whatever it is, first by finding this snap that was 12 foot off the ground. The significance of that wasn't anything, it was the significance of the fact that if the tree had been snapped over, pause, and right there. It had been snapped over against a poplar tree. This is the back. This is from the back. And there you see the poplar tree at play. The branches underneath have been woven and pulled around the tree at play. The other trees that were under it had been pulled over. It has what looks like design. It has purpose. You could stand underneath it and not touch the bottom of it at all. I mean, you can see that limbs were manipulated and pulled in, not little bitty twigs. I'm talking about substantial limbs to create something that I believe, and you know, from just what I'm looking at, pause. You ever heard the old nursery rhyme, "Rock-a-bye baby in the treetop, when the bough breaks, or when the wind blows, the cradle will rock"? Well, I believe this is exactly what I'm looking at. Play. That this was a place where a young could lay, a young could stay, and be safe out of harm's way, while the adult stayed underneath. Pause. And what's the significance of that? That is, in my opinions, primate behavior. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about something here that's, you know, primate, you know, a gorilla, the missing link. I mean, and I have both factions that really, you know, try to push, you know, yes, that's what this is. This is an ape. Yes, no, this is human. This is a, and yet I can actually show you evidence that I've collected that leans to both sides. But now see, at one time I remember hearing that the way that the native people were referred to was savage, because they lived